Hello, Venice family. I hope your week's been going well. I just want to take some time to talk a little bit about this last week's message, to stand as Jesus stands. This is a message that I greatly appreciate as it reminds me of what a brief mentor in my life once told me. And that was, if you don't take a stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that is indeed very true. But as I've grown older, I've had to also ask the question, what are the things that we should be taking a stand for? I believe more specifically, what are the things that we as Christians should be taking a stand for? And it is very much evident that we as Christians should certainly take a stand for the same things that Christ took a stand for. And such reasons are why it is very important to reflect and understand why Christ came to live out this earthly ministry, to reconcile us, humanity, back to God, and what that gift of salvation truly was costed, which was his life. And so for this time, I want to bring us to a passage in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 21 to 25, and this will be in the ESV. And throughout this chapter, it talks about what it means to live as believers in a broken and lawless world, a world filled with depravity and set on sinful ways, sinful patterns. And many Christians at this time were also struggling in comprehending what it means to take a stand, trying to wrestle with what it means to keep and maintain the faith in a time when it just seemed like it was almost pointless. Yet the following verses read, "For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example, so that you might follow in his steps. He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. When he was reviled, he did not revile in return. And when he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you were straying like sheep, but have now returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls." And so we see in this passage that Christ has lived as an example for us of how we are to live our lives, to not commit our lives to sin, regardless of the circumstances of our world, the circumstances of our situation. That when we take a stand for what is holy and righteous, when we take a stand for what is Christ-like and what is good, that our responses are not to revile others. It is not to be sharp, it is not to be distasteful, but rather, as Christ did, that when he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued to entrust himself to God the Father. And such is an example of how we as Christians are to take a stand in this present life, that when we are subject to what is almost seemingly unlawful and unjust, that we also should entrust our lives and the situation over to God the Father. That Christ, who though lived a righteous life, was put to shame on a cross as though he was unrighteous. By his wounds it says we are healed. And though such a promise is not something that's promised to us, we have an understanding and comprehension that we too at one point were people who lived astray. We're people who lived about our lives and did things as we wanted, took a stand for all the wrong things. But when Christ came into our lives and opened up our eyes to realize not only the depth of our sin, but the vastness of his mercy and his love, we had a desire and a shift to live for the things of God. And if we have a desire and a longing to live for the things of God, we should also carry out such patterns and such desires in a way that Christ did as well. That though he suffered, he remained faithful. And sometimes we may not comprehend the situation or even comprehend these commands that God Christ has given to us, especially when it means to go forth in faith, to have faith the size of a mustard seed, to go forth, baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and make disciples of all nations. We may not know how we might get there, but we have faith that Christ, who came and paid the ultimate price, is the very person in which we as Christians take a stand in. And when we remember that Christ, who has conquered both sin and grave, is the very foundation we stand on, we can rest assured that we are not standing on sinking sand, but an unshakable foundation. And that we can entrust our lives and our will to a loving, powerful, merciful God who was just and righteous. And though the circumstances may not seem righteous as we see in the life of Christ, we can rest assured knowing that in faith, in perseverance, in trusting God the Father, a righteous fruit and reward will come about from it. And for us as believers, that prize of salvation, that joy of being with an eternal Father, is a wonderful gift to hold on to. God bless you all and have a wonderful day.